Most people assume the men of the 1950s had it easy with money. One income, a house, a car, a pension, and still something left over at the end of the month. They did not have it easy. They had a system, and almost every piece of it has been quietly forgotten because there is no money in selling it to you. Here is the thing nobody wants to tell you. The average 1950s household ran on roughly $5,000 a year. Adjusted for inflation, that is a fraction of what the typical family pulls in today. And yet, that man bought a home in 2 years of saving, carried almost no debt, and slept fine. It was never about how much came in. It was about the order things were done in. He paid the future first, then made everything else fit what was left. Most of us do that exactly backwards. We pay everyone else first. The landlord, the card, the store, the wanting, and we save whatever survives, which is usually nothing. He reversed the order, and reversing the order is the entire trick. That is the whole secret. Not a budget app, not a side hustle, a sequence. What you are about to hear is not nostalgia, and it is not a list of cute old habits. It is an architecture. 25 parts of it, counted down, with the most powerful ones saved for the end. Stay to the last 3, because the principle that ties all of this together does not show up until then. Number 25. Buy it used if it loses value. Anything that dropped in value the second you owned it, especially a car, he tried to buy a few years used. Let the first owner eat the steepest part of the depreciation. A 2-year-old car did the same job as a new one for a fraction of the cost. This is maybe the single most reliable money rule there is, and the modern marketing machine spends billions a year convincing you to ignore it. Number 24. The cooling off. Wait. Before any purchase over a certain size, a real one, appliance, furniture, a good coat, there was a wait. A week, sometimes 30 days. If you still wanted it after the wait and the money was there, you bought it. Most of the time, the wanting faded. Modern psychology confirms the mechanism. Desire spikes and then decays, and almost all impulse buying happens inside that spike. He never read the study. He just knew that wanting something on Friday and still wanting it the next Friday were two different things. Number 23. Cash on the counter for a discount. He paid cash, and he was not shy about asking what cash was worth. What is your best price if I pay today? That was a normal sentence. Merchants took it because cash today beat credit, maybe. The habit kept him out of installment plans and gave him leverage at the same time. Every salesman knows a buyer holding folding money is a different animal than one reaching for a card. Number 22. The Sunday no-spend day. In most 1950s households, one day a week, no money changed hands. The wallet stayed on the dresser. You went to church. You ate what was already in the house. You visited people instead of places. Why it worked is simple behavioral math. Spending is a habit loop, and one fixed day of breaking the loop resets your default. Modern researchers call it a spending fast, and they have found it lowers your baseline for the whole week after. They did not have that finding. They just noticed that a quiet Sunday made Monday's paycheck stretch further. Number 21, the lunch pail. He carried his lunch every day. A sandwich, a thermos, fruit if it was in season. Eating out was for occasions, not Tuesdays. 40 cents saved a day does not sound like much until you run it across a working year and a working life. It is a perfect little lesson in the most ignored idea in personal finance. Small, automatic, repeated. The thing you do without thinking, 5 days a week, beats the thing you do heroically once. Number 20, repair before replace. Shoes were resold, not thrown out. Socks were darned. A toaster that quit got opened, not binned. The default assumption was that an object was worth fixing, and that assumption alone changed the math on everything he owned. We've been trained into the opposite default, and it's working against us, not for us. A man who can keep a pair of good boots alive for 15 years is quietly wealthier than a man who buys cheap ones every 2. Number 19, the neighborhood tool library. Nobody on the street owned every tool. One man had the good ladder, another the chainsaw, another the post hole digger. You borrowed it, you returned it clean, you lent yours back. The whole block effectively shared the cost of equipment that mostly sits idle. Today, we each buy our own and let it rust in the garage. They didn't call it the sharing economy. They called it being a good neighbor, and it saved every household real money. Number 18, buying in season and putting it up. When tomatoes were cheap, you bought a bushel and you canned them. Strawberries in June, jam by July. The price of food swings with the calendar. In the 1950s, wife and husband bought at the bottom of the swing and stored the difference. Economists would later put a name on this: arbitrage across time. They just called it a full pantry. A cellar of mason jars was a grocery bill paid months in advance at a discount. Number 17, the kitchen garden. A patch of yard grew real food. Beans, tomatoes, greens kept the family fed and the grocery bill down, and it cost a few cents of seed and some Saturday mornings. It was the highest return investment most families had, and it paid in something you could eat. They didn't frame it as a hedge against food prices. It just was one every single summer. Number 16, every receipt kept. There was a drawer or a spike on the desk, and every receipt landed on it. At the end of the month, he knew exactly where the money had gone, down to the nickel. You cannot fix what you refuse to look at. Modern finance calls this expense tracking and sells you an app for it. He used a nail and a shoebox and got the same clarity because the clarity was never about the tool. Number 15, the allowance was earned. Children got money, but it was tied to work, chores done, jobs finished. A portion was expected to be saved before any was spent. The kid learned at 7 years old that money is the thing left after you have done something useful and set part of it aside. That lesson is worth more than the allowance itself, and it is the one most households have stopped teaching entirely. Number 14, the written household ledger. One notebook. Income on one side, every outgoing on the other, reconciled by hand. Not a feeling about the finances, a record of them. The act of writing each number down forced him to confront it, and confrontation is what changes behavior. Studies on money management keep finding the same thing. People who write spending down spend less automatically, just from the friction of recording it. He didn't need the study. The notebook told him the truth every week. Number 13. He didn't race the neighbors. When the Joneses got a new car, his answer was to look at his own ledger, not their driveway. The whole engine of overspending is comparison, and he'd more or less switched that engine off. Status was a paid-off house and money in the bank, not a thing parked out front for the street to admire. We've rebuilt that comparison engine and pointed it at the entire planet through a screen. He only had one street to ignore, and he ignored it. Number 12. Give first, off the top. Before the bills, before the saving even, a portion was set aside to give, to the church, to people who needed it. It sounds like it should make you poorer. It did the opposite, psychologically. Deciding the first slice of every dollar isn't yours to spend builds the exact discipline that runs the whole system. If you can give the first 10% away without flinching, saving the next 10 is easy. Number 11, the rainy day fund. Before anything fun, there was a cushion. Months of expenses, in cash, untouched, for the day the roof leaks or the work dries up. It wasn't an investment. It was insulation. The reason most modern households fall apart over a single surprise bill is that this cushion has been spent before it was ever built. He built it first, and a bad month stayed. A bad month, instead of becoming a bad decade. Number 10. Buy it once, buy it right. For the things that mattered, boots, a coat, tools, a mattress, he bought the best he could afford and kept it for decades. The cheap version bought 5 times costs more than the good version bought once. Run the cost across the years, you will own the thing, not the price on the tag. That single shift in how you read a price tag quietly rewrites your whole budget. The marketing world calls it cost per wear now. He just called it not being wasteful. Number 9, the Christmas Club account. Starting in January, a small fixed amount went into a special bank account you could not easily touch until December. By the holidays, the gifts were already paid for in cash, with zero debt carried into the new year. The genius was not the saving. It was the friction, money that was deliberately hard to reach. Behavioral economists now build whole products around exactly this idea. The corner bank was doing it 80 years ago on purpose. Number 8, layaway instead of credit. You wanted the coat but did not have the money yet, so the store held it and you paid it down over weeks. When it was fully paid, you took it home. Notice the direction of time. You paid first and received second, the exact opposite of a credit card, where you receive first and pay forever. Same patience, but one builds you and the other bleeds you. They chose the one that builds. Number 7. Savings bonds straight off the paycheck. A slice of pay went into United States savings bonds through payroll deduction before he ever saw it. Out of the check, into the bond, automatically. This is the most important word in this entire video. Automatic. Money he never touched was money he never spent, and it compounded in the background for years. Every retirement system today is built on this one trick. He was running it by hand in 1955. Number 6. Forced savings he couldn't break. Whole life insurance, holiday clubs, bonds. Notice the pattern across all of them. He deliberately put his money somewhere hard to reach because he understood his own weakness. He did not trust future him to leave the savings alone, so he locked the door and threw away the easy key. That is not old-fashioned. That is the single most sophisticated thing in modern behavioral finance, and he did it on instinct. Number 5. He paid cash for the car. No 5-year loan. He saved, often with that Christmas club kind of discipline, and he paid for the car outright, usually a used one. A car is a depreciating object. Financing it means paying interest on something actively losing value, which is close to the worst trade in personal finance. You pay more for something that is worth less every single month. He skipped it entirely. And here's what nobody tells you about that. The average car payment today, taken across the years a man drives, is one of the largest single expenses of his entire life. Bigger than almost anything except the house itself. He didn't have it. The man with no car payment is quietly carrying a raise that the man with one will never see. Number 4. The 2 times income rule on the house. He would not buy a house that cost more than about twice the family's annual income. That ceiling did 2 things at once. It capped the mortgage at something one paycheck could carry, and it left enough room to keep saving while paying it down. The reason so many modern households feel underwater on a good income is that this ceiling was abandoned quietly over decades. While everyone agreed it was normal to spend 4, 5, 6 times a year's income on a place to sleep. He would have called that madness, and he would have been right. A house that eats every dollar you make isn't an asset. It's a cage with a nice kitchen. He treated the 2 times rule as a law. The house served the life. The life did not serve the house. Number 3, live on one income, bank the rest. Even when a second income existed, many households ran the whole house on one and saved the other entirely. And every raise went the same way, straight to savings, while they kept living on what they had lived on before. Their lifestyle stayed flat while their income climbed, and the gap between the two became wealth. We do the exact opposite now. We let the spending rise to meet every raise, and we wonder why more money never feels like more. Number 2, pay yourself first. Before a single bill was touched, a fixed slice came off the top and went into savings, not what was left at the end of the month. There's never anything left at the end of the month. The first slice before anything. He treated his own future like the most important bill he owed, and he paid it first, every time. Flip the order of those two things. Save first, spend the rest, and you have changed everything about how money works for you. It is the simplest idea here, and the one almost nobody actually does. Number 1, the envelope system. Here it is. On payday, the cash came home and got divided into envelopes: rent, food, gas, savings, giving. Each one labeled, each one holding exactly what that category was allowed for the month. When the food envelope was empty, food spending was done. Not slowed. Done. Every dollar had a name and a job before the month started, which is why nothing ever went missing. There was no mystery at the end of the month. No, where did it all go? Because the question had already been answered on payday, in cash, on the kitchen table. The envelope couldn't lie, and it couldn't overdraft. When it was empty, it was empty, and that hard limit did the work that no amount of willpower ever does. This is the architecture. The other 24 hang on. Every single habit on this list is really just a version of this one move: deciding first, then spending. It's the difference between telling your money where to go and asking it, afterward, where it went. Look back at the whole list and you'll see it was never 25 tricks. It was one idea, wearing 25 different coats. He decided where every dollar went before it arrived. He paid the future before the present, and he built quiet friction between himself and his own worst instincts. The income was small. The system was enormous. We earn many times what he did and feel half as secure. And it is not because the world got more expensive. It's because the architecture got deleted, replaced with 100 products designed to make spending frictionless and saving an afterthought. Everything you just heard pushes in the other direction. These aren't old money habits. They're the right ones. We didn't outgrow them. We were sold something else. So here's what I want you to do. Try one of these this week. If you want the lowest commitment, run the Sunday. No spend day. One day. Wallet on the dresser. See what it does to the rest of the week. If you want to go a step deeper, pay yourself first on your very next paycheck, even 10% before any bill. And if you want to really understand the whole system, put cash in envelopes for 1 month and watch where your money actually goes. Then come to the comments and tell me which one you tried and whether anything changed. I genuinely want to know whether the envelope still works the way it did in 1955. Because I don't think these men were richer than us. I think they were just better organized. And if you got any value out of this, real value, do one more thing. Subscribe. That is what this channel is for. Masculine Manual is bringing masculinity back, one forgotten skill at a time, with the tips, the tricks, and the discipline most men were never handed. There is a lot more of it coming, and you do not want to miss it.